I got Jerry here, and today we're going to tell you about a really interesting deck that's did well in Japan. Oh my god, this dog has no control over his body. Hey, Nick from 9-Card TCG, and today we're going to be looking at a darkness type of poison deck that did pretty well at a tournament in Japan. If you want more information on the individual who piloted it, where I got the deck list, and the site we're going to use to actually look at the deck, all that stuff's in the video description, so please go check that out. I move a lot, so Jerry keeps getting knocked about as I talk, and I feel bad. Anyway, if you're in the mood to click stuff, you can go ahead and click subscribe and leave a like on this video. It tells YouTube this is a good channel. Other people should watch it. Do it for Jerry. Do it for this little face. It's like he knows he's on camera and he refuses. Look at him. Look at him. He's just, this is unbelievable. Unbelievable. I've never seen a dog the second the camera's on. Just anyway, I'm taking too long. Let's just go ahead, take a look at this deck profile. So here we are, the Pokegear app, and again, link in the video description. We're going to start off. This is an Arceus deck that uses some dark type attackers, and we got a couple of different things we're going to talk about here. The first, obviously, is Arceus V, 220 health for 2 colorless energies. Trinity Charge is going to go ahead and let you search your deck for 3 basic energies and attach them to your Pokemon V in any way you want. Now, this is where things get a little weird, and we're going to kind of skip ahead. Arceus V Star, Trinity Charge, Trinity Nova let you power up Pokemon V. However, we're going to get this Paldean Wooper and evolve into Paldean Clodsire EX, and we cannot use Trinity Charge or Trinity Nova to power up this Clodsire. Now, we can still power it up pretty quickly, and we'll talk about how we can do that. Toxic Swamp is your ability once during your turn. If a stadium is in play, you may make your opponent's active Pokemon poisoned. Pretty cool. We got a retreat cost of 3, which is a little high, but we're not going to worry about it too much. 280 health and a fighting weakness, Jerry. I definitely need this arm, so I'm really sorry. Just gotta grab the mouth. Our attack is Bone Needles. That name is definitely getting changed. But anyway, for Dark and 2 colors, it does 200 damage, which is pretty good. Flip a coin. If tails during your next turn, this Pokemon can't attack. That's quite alright. So, Paldean Clodsire is going to do 200 damage and poison our opponent's Pokemon. Well, we have something like Radiant, Hisuian, Sneasler that when we poison something, we actually put 2 more damage counters on it during checkup than just the standard one. So we're actually going to hit for 30 poison damage each turn, which is pretty cool. We do have to worry about our opponent clearing the poison, and there's 3 ways to clear it. The first is evolving a Pokemon. When you evolve a Pokemon, they get cured of the status condition. Moving to the bench is another way to clear a status condition, and the third way is by playing a card that has some type of effect, removing or preventing status conditions from being applied. So we're doing a decent amount of damage. We're doing 200 plus 30 in between every turn that our opponent does not get rid of the poison. So not bad. That poison damage does stack up pretty quickly. We do also have the Sableye. I'm sorry this is in Japanese. I am unable to find a translated version of it, but we're using the second attack for 1 dark energy. It does 20 damage plus 70 more damage if our opponent's active Pokemon has any status conditions. So that means we're hitting for 90 damage plus the 200 plus the 30. So we're hitting for 230 plus 90, 320. That's a good amount of damage. That's enough to knock out most VMAXs, Stage 2, Pokemon EX, things like that, if we are able to attack with the Clodsire and then hit with the Sableye. Now, Clodsire EX's ability says that if a stadium is in play, then we can poison our opponent's active. Well, we have 3 different stadiums to choose from. We have Collapse Stadium, really good into Lost Zone matches, Mew, Reggie's, things like that, where we might want to get rid of a Pokemon on our opponent's side of the field. We have Path to the Peak, which is going to turn off abilities from Rule Box Pokemon. Now, this will turn off Pokemon like Clodsire, so do keep that in mind. It turns off Radiant Sneasler, it turns off Arceus V-Star. Any rule box Pokemon with an ability is affected by Path to the Peak. And our last stadium is Lost City. Whenever a Pokemon is knocked out, that Pokemon goes to the Lost Zone instead of the discard. So what we can do is we can use something like Arceus V-Star's V-Star Power, Starbirth, to search our deck for 2 cards and put them into our hand. We can go ahead and get something like a Collapsed Stadium or a Lost City, put that into play, and then use Toxic Swamp on the Clodsire to poison our opponent's active, and then either hit them with Bone Needles or just start to chip away with some damage here. We do, interestingly, Choice Belt will allow us to do 30 more damage to Pokemon V. That's kind of helpful because it will help offset some of the damage reduction from Double Turbo Energy. Why are we using Double Turbo Energy? Well, we want to power up this Arceus V and V-Star as quickly as possible so we can get that Trinity Nova off. And if we attach an energy, like attach a Dark Energy in the following turn, we use Starbirth, we go ahead and get a DTE and a Collapsed Stadium or DTE Lost City, something like that, then we can go ahead and make the most out of our Clodsire. We do have an additional target for Trinity Charge and Trinity Nova, and that's the Tyranitar V. Single Strike Crush, 240 damage for double Dark and double Colorless. Discard the top 4 cards of your deck. Really not the greatest attack, but in a scenario where we can power it up with Arceus and we can power it up with Dark Patch, attach a basic Dark Energy from your discard pile to one of your bench Dark Pokemon, we can actually power this up pretty quickly. That also applies to the Clodsire. Now, if we wanted to really power up in a single turn, we can go ahead, say Ultra Ball a Dark Energy away to get that Arceus V-Star, Starburst for something like a Dark Patch and a DTE, and then we can go ahead and use the DTE, attach the DTE and then Dark Patch this Clodsire or Dark Patch onto the Tyranitar. We could technically Dark Patch the Sableye or even the Sneasler. Sneasler does do Poison Jab for a Dark Double Colorless, hits for 90. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned, so it will do 120 damage, which is not great, but still not terrible. Do remember, apply the 20 damage reduction for the Double Turbo Energy, very, very important. So that's kind of the deck, is just attack and do some chip damage. Now you're like, Nick, we're going to get knocked out before we can take all that chip damage from the poison. Well, we do have something like Sharon's Care. Sharon's Care is going to let us heal one of our Arceus V or V-Stars, because what we can do is we can take a damaged colorless Pokemon from the field, put it back onto our hands. So this is a really good way of recycling Arceus V and V-Stars. So we have an Arceus V-Star in play, we attack, we power up an Arceus V on the bench, our opponent hits into the Arceus V-Star, we then Sharon, pull that Arceus V-Star out of the active, now it's no longer damaged, we send up the Arceus V, and now we have the Arceus V-Star and all the energies. We can go ahead, evolve the active Arceus V into the V-Star, and then start attacking. Meanwhile, we're, setting up something else on the bench, the Tyranitar, Clodsire, whatever it is we're trying to do. So, really cool way of doing things. We do also have Raihan as an additional way to power up Pokemon very quickly. Pokemon that we might not be able to target with something like an Arceus V, specifically the Clodsire, or something like the Tyranitar that needs a lot of energy quickly. So we could power up the Tyranitar very fast. The way we use it is Raihan can only be played if one of our Pokemon was knocked out during our opponent's last turn. But if it was, we can go ahead and take an energy from our discard, attach it to one of our Pokemon, and then search our deck for any card we want. So we get the Tyranitar, it needs 4 energy, 2 dark, 2 colorless. So what we can do is we can Raihan a Dark Energy onto it, then go ahead, get a Dark Patch, use Dark Patch to put an energy onto it, right? And then we search our deck for any card we want, whether that's the DTE or it's one of our couple of switch outs, so we can go ahead and get that Tyranitar into the active. Because remember, Dark Patch only works if it's on the bench. So if it is on the bench, well, we can Escape Rope. Both you and your opponent choose a Pokemon from the bench and put it into your active. Your opponent chooses first, and then switch. I hate this sometimes. Switch will just let you move a Pokemon from your bench to the active. So we can go ahead and move stuff around, so we can go ahead and get that Tyranitar into the active and start attacking. Again, Choice Belt's going to let us do a little bit extra damage to Pokemon V, which is really nice. And yeah, that's kind of what we need to do. We could search a deck for like the double turbo energy or the switch or the dark patch, whatever it is we're missing from that combo to make it happen. Speaking of trying to make things happen, sometimes you need to draw cards. We have Serena, which is going to allow us to either discard up to 3 cards in our hand to draw until we have 5, or we can switch one of our opponent's Pokemon from the bench with their active. It does have to be a Pokemon V, so we can target something like the Arceus or Tyranitar on our opponent's side of the field, but we would not be able to use Serena for a Radiant Sneasel or any EX Pokemon, which is a little annoying. I had to get Jerry out of there. I don't remember what I was saying. Serena, we can discard, draw some cards, we can gust, and then we also have Boss's Orders. That's going to allow us to pull a Pokemon from our opponent's bench and bring it into the active. This lets us pick any Pokemon we want, so we can go ahead and grab EX's basic Pokemon, anything that's not specifically V Pokemon like the Arceus or Tyranitar. Boss's Orders is 4. We have a little bit of hand disruption in the form of Judge. Both players shuffle their hands and shuffle the hands into their deck and then draw 4 new cards. This is really nice against things like Lost Zone, where their idea is to build up a bunch of cards in their hand, and then they have a lot of plays, a lot of things they can do. Well, now we can go ahead, put all those cards back in the deck, and they draw 4. Against things like Lost Zone and Mew, Judge isn't always the greatest because there, one, is a chance that they can draw into the cards that were in their hand. Unlike Monty, these cards do not go to the bottom of the deck. They're just shuffled, and there is the chance they draw. Plus, between things like Culver's and their Comfies and everything, Radiant Greninjas, they're probably going to draw a few more cards, but it's still never a bad thing to do. And there are some times where we just need to research. We just need to play Professor's Research, discard our entire hand, and draw a fresh set of cards. Maybe we need more than 1 card or 2 cards to make a combo happen, so Professor's Research is the way to do it. We have 2 copies of V-Guard Energy, which reduces the damage done to our Pokemon that this card is attached to by 30 from attacks of our opponent's Pokemon V. So if an Arceus V-Star hits into us, well, it's not doing 200 anymore, it's actually going to do 170. And if our opponent's Arceus has a double turbo energy, now they're actually doing 150 damage, which is pretty nice. There's, there are things that we can maybe do in addition to bring that damage down even more. We got Radiant Gardevoir in play, not particularly in this deck, but just in general, you know what I'm talking about. We do have, we talked about double turbo energy, 7 copies of darkness energy, and that's kind of the whole deck. There's really not a whole lot to it. The idea is to use Arceus V and V-Star to attack, start setting up some Pokemon. We can use Sherman's Care to kind of heal, get that damage off of the board, and then just poison with something like Clodsire, Radiant Sneasel. We can use the Sableye as a nice single prize attacker. And then we have Tyranitar for just big damage. And I think it's an interesting deck. Again, similar to the Meowscarada, I don't necessarily know if this is something that's going to be really good competitive. This is a solid tier 2, tier 2.5 type deck where it's a good functioning deck. It has a clear strategy. It has a clear way of making that strategy happen. But can it keep up with some of the other stronger meta decks? Remains to be seen. At least in Japan, in a tournament, it did well. One tournament in Japan where they play best of 1 isn't exactly the greatest comparison for our format, where the format's a little different. We play best of 3, and it's just a little bit different. So all those things are things you should keep in mind. But when we get our second Scarlet and Violet set, Clodsire EX might be a card you want to take a peek at. So there you have it, Clodsire EX with Arceus V-Star, a little stroll on the dark side. And I hope you enjoyed that, found it informative. If you did, like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff. Tells YouTube this is a good channel, people should watch it. It helps, it makes Jerry really happy. So if you love Jerry, you should subscribe to the channel because, he likes that kind of stuff. He likes when you subscribe. So anyway, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks so much, and I will see you next time.